Hi everybody, welcome to today's session. This is Ramanuj from LawSeco, and with us we have Priyasha Kori from QLTS GIG, who herself has qualified QLTS. She's qualified to practice in England and Wales. Currently she practices in Dubai and runs QLTS GIG, which is a training program for QLTS exam. So let's all welcome Priyasha. Hi Priyasha, how are you doing? This is your second time on LawSeco webinars.
Hi, Ramanuj, and hi, everybody else. No, it's good to be back again to one of LawSeco's webinar. I woke up with a bad headache today, but I'm a lot better now. So I'm looking forward to speaking about the QLTS.
Great. Hopefully that will be the best headache cure.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I can always, I wasn't too worried about today because I can speak a lot about the QLTS. So I knew that, okay, you know what, I can manage fine. So should we wait for a few more people to join, or should I?
People will keep joining in. We can get started definitely and let people join in as it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me do
and
one
anyway,
thing.
we are live on YouTube also, and the link will be available on YouTube. So anybody who wants to watch this later can go to YouTube and watch it. In fact, why don't I do something? I'll share with all of you the link of the YouTube session as well. Just a moment. Many people are watching this live on YouTube as well right now.
Okay, perfect. What I will do is also, I'm going to share my screen because I have a short presentation.
Okay.
If you've attended my previous webinars, then I can promise you that this time it's a lot more shorter, and we're going to spend more time on, the Q&A, because that, I'm sure, is the more important part of the presentation.
Sure. So I have shared the YouTube link also with everybody. You can save this, you can subscribe to the channel so that you can watch this later. Okay, so Priyasha, before anything else, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us, because maybe there are many of the people who are today, they might have watched your previous session on working in Dubai and career in Dubai for Indian lawyers. But beside that, there will be many people who are new and they don't know much about you. So if you can share your professional and background a little, academic background. Apart from that, I'd request everybody who's listening to this to please share. Please share this. Share about yourself in the chat, right? Like just share your name, where you are logging in from, what value you want to take away from today's session, and that's it. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, perfect. That would be if you can also enable my screen sharing, because I've written a little bit about myself in my presentation itself, so I can just quickly. And I'll also keep a track on the chat, so I can accordingly make sure that I'm addressing all of your.
Sure. I'll ask questions. Don't worry. I'll keep asking questions, so that it becomes a little easier and things stay on track. Okay, perfect. Let's get started.
Yeah, let me just okay. So a little bit about myself. I mean, is it clear? I mean, like I hope all these other Zoom things are not showing on the screen.
No, everything is clear.
Okay, perfect. All right. So just to give you a little bit of an introduction to myself before I start the presentation, I'm a corporate and commercial lawyer based in Dubai, and I have about 9 years of experience. Also, the more relevant part is that I'm the founder of QLTS Geek, which is essentially, a mobile app which is aimed at helping foreign lawyers qualify in the UK. Where you can actually just check out our website for a little bit more about the app. The website is still in a very early stage, in the sense that we're rebuilding our platform, where we also have a mobile app, which is currently only on Google Play Store. We're adding a lot more features to the app, and we're going to be launching soon. So our objective is to make sure that we provide cost-effective resources to people who want to take the QLTS, because currently it's quite expensive, and we want to make sure that it's more accessible to lawyers all over. Because one of my passions as well is that I'm excited about the idea of helping lawyers practice in other jurisdictions. So in due course, I hope that, I'm able to play a role in that, in the sense that I do feel like lawyer skills are actually transferable, and and we need, the legal profession needs to be more mobile. So I invite you to connect and follow me on LinkedIn for updates on QLTS. I know I've been a bit lax when it comes to responding to messages. And if you've attended my previous webinar and you sent a message and I haven't responded to you, I apologize for that. I am just trying to make sure that I respond to most of you in the coming few weeks. You can also actually follow updates on QLTS Geek on LinkedIn, and we also have an Instagram page. Our Twitter and Facebook page as well will be a little more active soon. In terms of my professional career, apart from this, I started my career in Trilegal. I studied in National Law University, Jodhpur, spent 5 years in Mumbai, then moved to the UAE, and I've been working here for the last 4 years. And I'm currently now in the process of setting up my own practice and firm. So yeah, I mean, more about that again, when you connect and follow me on LinkedIn, you'll get to know about, my journey. So I guess I'm gonna start my presentation. I'm just having a quick look at the chat just to make sure that I'm, making sure that I know what people want from the presentation. Okay, perfect. Okay, great to see so many of you present at this session. Let's begin, and we have a big Q&A session at the end, so I'm sure I'll cover all your questions at the end. Oops, okay. So what am I going to cover today? First, I'm going to give a quick introduction to the QLTS, and I'll quickly discuss the assessments that form part of this and what you need to do to qualify. Second, I'm going to talk about the estimated costs, which is important because it can get quite expensive for people. So it's good to know what exactly you will have to shell out of your pocket to take this exam. I'm also going to talk about my journey through clearing the QLTS. Fourth, which is $1 million question, will the QLTS help your career? That's one thing that everybody wants to know. So I will cover that. And the fifth important thing is there are changes that are going to start taking place in the UK in terms of how you qualify. So there's going to be a big change happening soon. So it's important to know this update if you're thinking about, qualifying as a solicitor in the UK. And then of course, the last is I will address all your questions. It might actually be useful to type your questions at the end because then it'll be easier for me to see it. But feel free to also type your questions as you go because I might miss your questions as I'm presenting. So let me start with an introduction to the QLTS. I actually don't really know how many of you know about the QLTS. Do you know a lot about the QLTS, or is it something that you'd like a little bit more information? Maybe you can quickly chat on the box.
Yeah, sure. Let's start from the beginning. Many people wouldn't know, so there would be some people who know, but let's start from the beginning.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me get down to the.
So what is QLTS? What is QLTS?
Yeah, so the QLTS is basically a short form for Qualified Lawyers Transfer Scheme. Okay, so essentially, if you're a foreign lawyer and qualified foreign lawyer, and you want to become a solicitor in England and Wales, then you have to take this assessment.
This is for lawyers who are qualified in their own country. Like you are let's say
exactly.
registered with the bar council in India. You have cleared the bar exam in India. Then you can write this.
Exactly. So you need to be. So India is actually one of the recognized jurisdictions. So if you're a qualified lawyer in India, then all you have to do is you have to take this assessment, and once you clear it, you're eligible to become a solicitor in the UK. Now, an interesting part about this is that they don't really check whether you're qualified when you're actually writing the assessments. So let's say that when I registered for the exam, no, they didn't really ask me for any certificate or anything from India. It's only at the end, once I cleared all the assessments, that's when they asked me. That's when they asked me for my certificate of good standing from the Bar Council. So what essentially I'm trying to say is that, even if you're not yet qualified, you can still take the exams. And, in the meantime, you can sort of arrange for your Bar Council certificates and so you can actually save some time. You could possibly also do it if you're like a final year law student or something like that, because let's say you take the MCT, and then in between you can get your Bar Council of India certificate of practice, and then you can actually do the OSCE and get qualified in the UK. So that's one interesting thing to know before you take the QLTS.
So who should take the QLTS? What is the point of taking this exam?
Yeah, so I'm going to discuss that at the end. This is essentially, Amani is going to cover that, but I will bring it up right now. So essentially, if you're working in any multicultural jurisdictions, like let's say Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, or even if you want to go to the UK, if you want to practice there, you need to be a qualified lawyer there, right? You need to have the license to practice there. So that's why it helps to have, which is why you need to have the QLTS if you're actually going to the UK. Now, there are different ways you can actually practice in the UK as well. You can get a training contract, and that's probably, the other route to getting qualified in the UK. But I guess the easiest way, if you're already qualified in India, is to take the QLTS. And I've seen a lot of lawyers do this. Also, let's say you have a lot of English law firms in jurisdictions like Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong. So here again, if you're a UK solicitor, then they sort of give you a little bit more preference when it comes to recruitments. Also, because I've spoken to some of my colleagues as well and peers who work in multinational organizations. Here again, if you have an international qualification, then you have a slight edge. And another thing is, again, in a place like Dubai, quite often, in recruitment ads and stuff, you would see something like, only UK qualified solicitors can apply for this job, So that's one of the things that I noticed when I came to the UAE. And that also prompted me to take the QLTS, because I thought, in the long run, it helps to have an international qualification, and that will actually help me in the long run. I do have a slide at the end, talking about what are the pros and cons of taking the QLTS, and I will sort of address a lot of points there as well. So I hope that's clear.
Great.
I know I'm probably not breaking it down to the basics, but yeah, I hope this makes it clear. I'm going to have a quick look at the chat.
Yeah, it's fine. Priyasha, don't worry about the chat. I'll tell you, there is a question from chat. I'll bring it to you. Otherwise, it will slow down too much and you'll be interrupted many times. There's one basic question that I think we should answer at this point is that, can Indians give it? Yes, I think Priyasha answered that already.
Yeah, exactly. Indian lawyers can give it. And I think most of today's audience are Indian lawyers. So the assessment is essentially 2 stages. First is your multiple choice test. And the second is objective structured clinical examination. I know it sounds really complicated, but it's called the OSCE. So the first stage of the exam, which is MCT, is a multiple choice exam, and you have about 180 questions. They're quite complicated, although you would expect an MCT to be simple, but it is complicated, so you do have to prepare well for it. The good news is that you don't have to travel to London for this test. It's just a 1-day exam, and you have various centers, and I think you have quite a few centers in India as well as all over the world. But one thing I would definitely tell you is to make sure that you register for the test in advance, because the seats fill up quite quickly. So make sure that you.
How many people give this exam in a year?
Well, for MCT, I think it ranges from about 2,000 to 5,000 people. This is what, based on my knowledge, I haven't really seen any official statistics. But Ramanuj, if you know any something which is more official, do let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are people are asking, is there any age criteria and is there any restriction on who can write this?
No, there is no restriction on age. As long as you're qualified in India, you should be able to take the exam.
Great. Okay.
So the second, again, like I said, when you register for the exam, they don't really ask you for any documents. You can just register and take the exam. It's only at the end when you clear the exam that you have to, provide documentation. So the second part of the exam is called the OSCE. Now, this is slightly more complicated because it's a 6-day affair and you have to take the exam in London. Also, it's a bit more practical. So you do have to, practice quite a lot if you're not that comfortable with, especially if you don't have much experience, then you definitely have to practice a lot. You do have to travel to London, so there's logistics involved. You have to arrange for your visa. So the second part of the exam can be slightly complicated. I wouldn't say complicated, just a bit more difficult to sort of organize because you have to take leave from your office and all those sort of things, study while you're working, and it's slightly more expensive, so you need to be a little more careful for the OSCE. A lot of people actually find the OSCE easier as well because it's quite practical. So for experienced lawyers, it might just be not that bad. I personally found the OSCE slightly more difficult because I don't have a litigation background and there is quite a lot of litigation stuff in the OSCE. In fact, if you want to know more details about the assessments, there's a link on this presentation. You can just click on it and I've sort of set out all the details about what are the subjects covered in each of these assessments. And also the format of the exam. So you'll sort of get to know about that in the link. And of course, if you have any questions, I can take those questions at the end.
Sure.
Let me move to the next. So I'm going to quickly talk about the estimated costs because I think that's one question that a lot of people would have. So this is a very short sort of approximation. So, if you want to register for the exam, you have to register at the website of Kaplan. So Kaplan is essentially the organization which sort of which organizes this assessment. So you have to go to the website, register there. And let me give you a quick overview about the costs. For MCT, you have, your registration costs are £565. Training provider, now there are various training providers that are there in the market, and it helps to sort of take the course of a training provider because they have a lot of mock tests and practice questions, but a lot of times they're not really that affordable. So your approximate costs are going to be in the range of, let's say, 1,300 or 1,400 pounds for the training provider. You don't really have logistics involved because you can take the MCT in one of the local centers in India itself. So your logistics are not really going to be that much. So you can say in total you're spending about £2,000, which is in INR it's about you can say 2 lakhs or 1,85,000. So those are your costs for the MCT, which is the first level. Your costs for the OSCE are again quite high again. This is again an approximation. For example, the registration costs itself for the exam are about £3,650. Your training provider as well would be about £2,200. You need access to LexisNexis, Westlaw. So you're going to be spending a little bit here and there, and you end up spending about £2,300. And then of course there's logistics because you have to travel to the UK, you have to apply for a visa, you have to stay there for about 2 weeks. So all that together, you can expect yourself to spend about 8,000 pounds, which is expensive. But well, in my case, I would say, I was working at a law firm, so I did sort of, save some money for my education, for investing in myself. So I sort of somehow managed, and of course, these costs were spread across the year. So let's say that I spent for the MCT, I took it in February 2017. So it's only in November that the previous year around October, I spent my 565 pounds. Then again, towards November, I spent my training provider costs. So it was in a way spread across the year. So I didn't really have to spend all of this in one go. Another point that I would also like to talk about in this slide is that, at QLTS Geek, we're trying to bring down the training provider costs. So essentially, when our app is running, you can actually sort of connect with people who've already taken the exam. You'd be able to get bite-sized information about the exam. You're going to get a lot of small study materials that are going to help you. So in the long run, we do hope to sort of bring down these costs to an extent. So yeah, that's your approximate cost that you will be spending for this assessment. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly talk about my journey as well. So for the MCT, I took the first level of the exam in February 2017. I registered for it much in advance the previous year in 2016 itself. I also sort of used the QLTS school, which was a training provider for the MCT. So the QLTS school definitely is good. They give you, a lot of study materials. They give you mock tests and practice questions. So they did have a good course, I would say, for the assessment. It was slightly expensive, but yes, it was definitely useful.
How much did you pay for it? How much
this was about this was again the previous slide 1.3 was about, I think that time it was slightly cheaper. It was about 1,200 pounds.
Okay.
So that was that were my costs for QLT school. I've also written about my prep strategy at this link. So later on, after this webinar, you can have a quick look at how I prepared and cleared the MCT. Also, another thing is I do know a lot of people who actually haven't taken any training provider and they've cleared the exam as well. So I think if you're somebody who whose resources are a bit on the short low, if you're short on resources, then I would say that definitely you can prepare it on your own. It's just that you need to give yourself a little bit more time to prepare. So I prepared in the last minute, and that's why I definitely needed a training provider. But if you prepare well in advance, then I would say that you could possibly clear the exam without really needing a training provider.
Are there any past year's papers or something that someone can refer to?
Yeah, there are only sample questions on the website of Kaplan, and unfortunately, there are only 20 sample questions. In Oxford University Press, they do have a few practice questions as well, but they're not really specifically for the MCT. They're basically practice questions on English law subjects that are covered in the MCT. So you can also refer to that. On another note, in QLTS Geek as well, we're preparing a mock test, and we're also preparing a few practice questions that will be up in our app. So hopefully soon when we launch, you'd be able to have access to those.
Great.
So yeah, so that's the quick update on MCT. I'm going to give you a quick short overview of my experience with OSCE as well. So I cleared the MCT in Feb 2017 itself, and I had the option of taking the OSCE, which is the second level of the exam, either in May or in November. And one of the things that I realized is that May was too short. time for me to prepare. So I decided to take the OSCE in November 2017. Here again, I used QLTS School. But this time when I took the QLT school for OSCE, I did find that there were certain gaps in their, prep material. They have improved their course since then, but I don't really know how it is right now because I haven't seen their new platform. I also used OSCE Smart, which is actually a very good course if you want to take mock tests. Because with OSCE, it's a very practical exam. So you need to keep practicing with somebody. I can give you a quick overview of the sort of practical tests that you have to do. One is, you have to it's a civil advocacy. So you have a case and you have to sort of, present it before a judge. Second is you have a client presentation. So your client will have a few questions and you need to explain that, explain the legal position to a client. There's also another test in which you have to take a client interview. So, these are very practical skills that are being tested. And so you need to really practice quite a lot for OSCE. So mock tests are definitely quite important for the second part of the exam. And that's where OSCE Smart, I found her course really good. So yeah, I mean, I took the OSCE in November 2017, and yeah, I mean, like I said, logistics and all, it took a little bit of time to organize that. And I also had to sort of prepare in advance. It was a bit difficult to sort of prepare along with my work as well. So I definitely needed to sort of, manage my time and make sure that I was apportioning some time every day for studies. So yeah, I mean, I would say definitely the OSCE requires some element of, preparation and organization as well. Again, I've written about my journey on LinkedIn, and I've shared a link here. So that would probably be, I'm sure that's going to be useful to a lot of you who've cleared the MCTA and who are taking the OSCE. I would say definitely check out my article. It's going to have some useful tips for you because I've given some very detailed tips on how to clear the exam. Okay, so this is the $1 million question, which is essentially, will the QLTS help your career? Now, of course, everybody has, different views on, the QLTS, and I'm going to give you mine. So the first is, I definitely think that for me, personal development is very important. So I always of course, I'm Indian as well. So which basically means that I keep wanting to give different exams and get qualifications. So that was one of my motivations towards taking the QLTS. I was also curious about learning more about English law because, when you're, because Indian law at the end of the day is based on common law, and we're a common law country. A lot of our laws are based on English laws. So I just felt like, it would benefit me if I were to also be qualified in the UK and have the ability to practice English laws. Also, when you're in international jurisdictions, a lot of times, you're actually coming across English law governed contracts. So, especially when it comes to disputes or even if you're working with the parties from different jurisdictions, they would prefer to have, let's say, a neutral jurisdiction. So people would rather have English law, which is a tried and tested law. So, if you're qualified as an English solicitor, then it sort of gives you a little bit of that edge, rather than just being Indian qualified. So I would say from a learning curve perspective, definitely taking the QLTS was very useful because I learned a lot more on the English laws. Also, there was a lot of emphasis on professional conduct, and I felt like that was very, very useful because professional conduct is very close to my heart, and I felt like there was a very good emphasis in the QLTS on that, and that definitely helped me become a better lawyer. Also for the OSCE, I really enjoyed the focus on the practical elements of the exam, because, in which bar exam do they have things like client interviews or civil or criminal advocacy before a judge? You generally have a theoretical exam all over the world for a bar exam. On the other hand, for OSCE, you actually have all these practical elements. So it's a good challenge, I would say. Definitely, I enjoyed practicing for it. I also enjoyed giving the exam. It was definitely a good experience. It was tough, but definitely great, and I learned a lot out of it. So
okay, so has it helped you since you have done it? Do you feel that in your other jobs or anywhere that you have since you have qualified, has it helped you in Dubai or in any other way?
Yeah. So again, like I said before, the English law qualification is a universally recognized qualification. So definitely it does give you a bit of an edge when you're looking for opportunities, or if you're even in your own, like even while I was at my job, it helped because, the moment you tell somebody that, oh, I'm qualified in the UK, then people sort of give you more importance. I know that shouldn't be the case because that's a bit superficial.
No, but it may be. But if there is a lot of matters happening through London, it's a hub of commercial activity. So
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah. I'm sure if
exactly.
you say that you are qualified in China, people will still give it importance because you can handle Chinese matter, right?
Yeah, definitely. Chinese lawyers definitely get a lot of importance nowadays because they can speak the Chinese language, right? Mandarin. So if you're somebody from, I've seen that happen a lot in Dubai personally. If you're Chinese, people definitely give you more importance because you can actually, you can be that link to businesses in China. So yes, I think another issue with the Indian qualification is that our bar exam, in fact, initially we never did have a bar exam. Now we do have a bar exam, but it's not really that challenging. So our bar is a
It's
little
really
low.
easy. So what I did once, I gave it to three graduates who are not law graduates, but the normal BA graduates, like Bachelor
Yeah.
of Arts. And it's the open book exam, so I gave them the books, and they didn't even wanted to open the books and solve it, but they were all able to pass the exam. Basically, score more than 40% by just applying their mind, because so many questions are so basic. It's like basic
Yeah.
questions on constitution. It's like, what does section XYZ of this act say? And you have the act, so you can just open the act and go to the section and say, oh, this is the section. So yeah, it's like really it is not any bar at all. Like people who are
Yeah,
failing the
exactly.
exam basically do not know how to read the law.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the problem. I think that a lot of people outside India, especially all the employers, face because they don't know how to distinguish between the Indian lawyers, who's actually good, who is okay, who's average. But on the other hand, let's say if you're qualified in the UK, or even if you're qualified in the US or Canada, they know that, okay, fine, you know what, this person has some standard because those exams are not that easy to pass. So, if you, so that's why I think sometimes when you're Indian, when you're an Indian qualified lawyer, it becomes a little difficult to prove yourself when you go outside the country. Like I had to prove myself when I moved out of India. And people were like, okay, at that point in time when I moved to Dubai, I didn't really have my English law qualification. So I definitely had to work harder at proving myself. But now that I've cleared the QLTs, I have noticed that sometimes people approach me and for opportunities, and it's a little easier because they'd be like, oh, you're qualified in the UK, you're eligible to apply. Why don't you try this opportunity? So definitely, I would say it opens doors. Having said that, it's not a guarantee to getting a job, because at the end of the day, you have to be a good lawyer. You have to have, the good skills. So a lot of people ask, sometimes they think that, you should get a job instantly after you pass the QLTS, but that's not really going to happen.
You still have to be a good lawyer, right?
Yeah. And plus your legal profession is a long career. It's your career is going to span across 30 to 40 or 50 years. So you need to see the long run. At some point, it's probably going to help you. It might not help you now, might help you later. And at the same time, to be a good lawyer, you don't even need a qualification. You don't really need qualifications. So if you're a really strong lawyer, you can actually even do really well without the QLTS. It's all about how you prove yourself. But yes, I mean, for me, like I said, I was looking at it from a marketability perspective as well.
Got it.
So that was.
So I have one question here. There are a lot of people asking a question about what is the difference between taking the route of GDL and LPC and taking QLTS. Like, how does these things differ?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing is that I actually don't really know too much about the GDL or the LPC. Sorry, one sec. Because well, the thing is that what I do know is that if you're qualified in India, then the QLTS is the easiest option for you. LPC essentially is for somebody who's done their LLB in England. Then you take the LPC, and I think once you write the LPC, you have to again get a training contract. So I think that's the problem if you do law in the UK, because I've seen a lot of people face this issue, especially a lot of people from the Middle East. They do their LLB in the UK. But what happens is after you do your LLB, then you need to do an LPC course. Then you have to get a training contract. Now, it's very difficult for an international student to get a training contract. And the only way you can qualify in the UK is if you have a training contract. So what happens is a lot of students who've graduated after doing the LLB in the UK, they don't get a training contract, so they have to come back to their home countries. A lot of them come back to, let's say, the Middle East or UAE, and they're stuck as a paralegal, because unless you are qualified, you can't be an associate. That way is, I think, on the other hand, for QLTS, you can actually take the QLTS as an Indian lawyer. So I feel the UK system is a little bit unfair to the people who actually study in the UK, because as an Indian person, I was able to take the QLTS and qualify as a solicitor in the UK without even having studied in the UK. So I think that's the basic difference between QLTS and LPC. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that if you're already qualified in India, then you need to just go ahead and take the QLTS. You don't need to think about the LPC or GDL.
Okay, so you have more slides, or?
Yeah, I just have a few more slides, just one or two,
please.
because
please go.
Yeah, so I was actually just talking about how the QLTS helps your career. I'm going to quickly just talk about how there's globalization today. So having an international qualification helps, because English law, like I said, is used in so many different parts of the world. It helps in your marketability, because again, when you can say that you're dual qualified, people know that, okay, fine, you're of a particular standard. Because like I said, if you're India qualified, then people find it hard to judge what your bar is.
Right.
And of course, it makes you versatile as a lawyer, because you know more laws. You can sort of
you can draw more connections. You can come up with new arguments. You can imagine things that others cannot, because you have more exposure.
True. And the last point here is QLTS versus LLM. A lot of people ask me this question as well. I would say it's an apples and orange comparison. The reason why I personally took the QLTS is because it was something that I could do while I was working. So I didn't really have to quit my job to sort of pursue this qualification. Plus, it gave me the license to practice in a jurisdiction. So I felt like for me, that would be like a more practical thing to have. The LLM, on the other hand, I would say LLM is also a very useful qualification, but the only difference being that you probably have to spend a little bit more. So you might have to get into debt for that. So for me, you
have to spend more money, and you don't really get the license to practice in that country, for which you have to again give QLTS. So you only get an LLM, which is an academic degree mostly, in most cases, especially in the UK. An LLM is a highly academic degree. It's not very practical.
Yeah, exactly. I would say LLM is probably not a good degree to consider in the UK. Maybe in the US it makes sense. Because in the US, if you do an LLM from, let's say, New York University, you can at least write the New York bar.
Bar exam.
So, and also LLM is, but LLM has other advantages as well, because, you get 1 year of exposure. You can network with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of doors open to people who've done the LLM. But then again, like I said, as with the QLTS and everything else, there are no guarantees.
There are no final answers, right? You can do multiple things, but QLTS has an advantage that one thing, that you are now allowed to practice there, and definitely people will take you seriously that you invested your time and effort into learning, into qualifying for that country. In fact, I would say when you look for jobs in the UK, it might be taken more seriously that you have done QLTS. And there are a number of jobs in-house positions, startups, etc. There are multiple things. You just say, I'm qualified to practice here. People take you more seriously that you have spent the time and effort, getting into the system. Therefore, you are a little invested. You're not going to run away overnight, even if they give you a job. Right.
Plus, another thing is even MNCs in India, like let's say that you have a international LLM, or even if you have the UK qualification, they're actually going to give you a little bit of an edge. I've heard that from my own peers who work in MNCs, because they're like, okay, they're working with lawyers from all over the world in their multinational companies, and everybody has like international qualifications. So I have received that feedback that especially when you're working for, let's say, something like a JP Morgan or Deloitte, you have a UK qualification, people will definitely take you more seriously.
Got it. So we are running out of time a little. We need to move a little faster.
Okay. Let me just check my time. Okay, fine. Yeah. All right. Perfect. So this is the last slide. Now, the thing is that QLTS is going to be phased out. So there are changes happening in the UK. So there's a new exam that's going to be introduced, which is actually good news for most of the people studying in the UK. Because if you've done your LLB in the UK, then you can actually straight away write an exam called the SQE, and you will qualify as a solicitor in the UK. And from what I understand, the SQE will also be applicable to foreign lawyers. It's just that there are certain things that are not clear, because you do need to have some sort of a work experience, and we don't really know how that's going to apply to foreign lawyers. So what I would say is that in a way time is running out, because in 2021 or 2022 they might be introducing the SQE. So you might as well take advantage of this time. If you want to do the QLTS, then I would say take it right now, before they complicate it any further.
So, but people can give SQE later on, right? Like if
people can give the SQE. It's just that there are certain criteria. There are certain they could make it more complicated, So there are a lot of things that are unclear at this stage.
Right. They might, for example, say to do an LLM here first, for example, or something like that.
Yeah, or they might just be like, oh, you know what, you need to get some work experience in the UK, or you need to work with the UK solicitor. So those are the things that there's not much clarity at this stage. So I would say that, okay, as long as the QLTS is around, it might just be useful for you to just, do it.
Because you never know what happens later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's about it. We've reached the Q&A session, and I'm going to open my chat so I can quickly see all your questions.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions, of course. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. There's a lot of questions on free study material about free study materials that people can use to start preparing. Anything like that?
Yeah. So for the MCT, I would say you can check out the Silex papers. I'm gonna just type it in the chat. Yeah. So this is actually very useful for the OSCE. Okay, sorry, for some reason it went private. Okay, so let me just type it. Hold on. So it's very useful for the OSCE. I haven't used it for the MCT, but yes, I do know that they do have certain papers which caters to the MCT as well. Mm-hmm. So definitely that's one of your free resources that you can take. There are a few practice questions in Oxford University Press website as well. So OUP.
Are there any forums or something where people discuss all these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are actually going to be having a forum in our app, which is going to be launched pretty soon. So maybe by beginning of June or mid-June, our app is going to be launched. So there we're going to have a forum. You can actually connect with people who've taken the QLTS. You can ask, there's going to be a chat feature. You can ask questions. So yeah, I would definitely say that that's one resource that you definitely should check out. And we will also have free resources in that app. So we're going to collate all of that and put that together. So that's definitely going to be, I would say, keep, watch that space. How many times can one give the MCT OSCE? Currently there's no limit, so you can keep giving it.
Yeah.
There's no,
and keep paying money to Kaplan. They'll be very happy. Say they don't have any option.
Exactly, it's expensive, so you need to make sure that you at least qualify it in your second attempt. So I would say prepare well for it if you're actually taking it. But now, because QLTS is going to be phased out, I would say that there might be certain limits imposed. But as of now, there are no limits.
Okay. There's a question from Kavya, and this is a question that many other people are also asking. This is about whether QLTS can help me to enter a Magic Circle law firm. Say if I don't get a training contract, is there something I can do to get into a Magic Circle law firm through QLTS? I have some thoughts about this, but maybe you go first. Yeah.
Well, I would say Magic Circle law firms, it is very difficult to crack into it. The best way to get into a Magic Circle is to get a training contract from your law school. Otherwise, like I said, you have to be a really good lawyer. You have to really prove yourself. You need to have some USP if you want to get into a Magic Circle law firm, because it's not easy. So like I said, sometimes, again, if you have knowledge of Chinese and they have a lot of Chinese clients, then, they might just be interested in you. So like I said, you need to have that USP if you want to enter into Magic Circle. I wouldn't say QLTS is a way to get into a Magic Circle law firm. It might help
maybe a precondition. So I'll just share one or two people I know who have managed to shift to. We actually interviewed somebody also a few days back who have gone to, without doing a training contract, also have moved into Magic Circle law firms or international law firms. Big international law firms, and it has always been the fact that you have worked in big law firms in India already, have worked on headlining deals. So for example, yesterday we were interviewing somebody who's joined the biggest law firm in Canada, right? Not in UK, of course, not a Magic Circle law firm, but in Canada. And it is very unusual that such a law firm would ever hire somebody who's just migrating from India to Canada. But the fact that she had worked in big law firms in India, had worked in the Naples Investment Board, had experience of working at Apple, so all of those things worked in favor of her, and she got the job. And I know other people who have worked on a lot of India UK deals. Like imagine you have worked on major deals, you have been let's say a in-house counsel in one of the British MNCs operating in India, and you have been like not just any in-house counsel, but maybe you have been like a general counsel. Then you might even be inducted as a partner in a big law firm. You might, if not a partner, you might be inducted as a a senior lawyer in the law firm. And that happens. That is very rare, but it happens because you have built such a practice that it makes business sense for them to bring you on board, because you bring clients with you, you bring experience with you, you bring value with you. And yes, if you have cleared QLTS, then they'll be like, okay, you are also qualified to practice here, makes things easier. But I think it is your track record of having clients and working with clients and being able to bring business, or having a really rare skill. Those things would make a difference. What do you say, Priya?
Yeah, I would agree to that. Like I said, you need to have a USP if you want to enter into a Magic Circle law firm, because Magic Circle law firms are very difficult to crack into. Or let's say you need to impress one of the partners. So one of the partners really likes you, then, or you've interacted with that partner at one point, then they might just recruit you. And in which case, whether you have the QLTS or not is not going to make a big difference, but it will definitely give you that edge. But you can definitely get into international law firms generally with the QLTS. It's just that the Magic Circle law firms, like I said, the bar is slightly higher. So, okay, so I would say there's another question. What sort of work experience is required for the new qualification system? I have an LLB from a UK institute with experience in the UAE? That's a good question, Ishaq. The thing is that right now they've not really clarified what sort of work experience is required. Having said that, I'm also trying to do some research on this, and
yeah, there are a lot
I'll
of
get
questions on SQE. In fact, I want to share something, Priyasha, you know this. There was a time
sure.
last year we have been planning to create a course on QLTS, and then we
Yeah,
realized that there's a SQE coming up, and
true.
we kind of stopped working on it because we said we don't know what's going to happen. We don't want to invest in a product which you don't know how it will pan out later
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Right. So that I think is a situation that nobody knows enough, and there is too much uncertainty around it. You cannot bank on the SQE right now if you're planning
Yeah.
to.
Also, another thing is a lot of people are unhappy about the fact that there's not too much of clarity on SQE, and they're planning to introduce it in 2021. I think, to be honest, in my opinion, it will be very difficult for them to implement it then, because now also with the COVID crisis, there are so many delays, exams are being postponed. I don't think they would be prepared to basically launch the SQE the next year. Having said that, there is a webinar coming up organized by the Law Society of the UK soon, sometime in June, I think. They're planning to give some more clarifications on the SQE, and I will definitely attend that and hopefully write an article. So in fact, that's one blog that I want to write very soon, some clarity on the SQE, So I'm going to be digging that out and trying to, put up a blog. So like I said, keep a watch out on the QLTS Geek page. I will put up a blog quite soon on that.
Abhinav, there is a question on that. Can you tell us something about QLTS in context of international arbitration? Because there's a separate page on the QLTS website on international arbitration.
Tell us about the QLTS. Well, the thing is that not really. There's nothing about arbitration in the QLTS, to be honest. It's all all your subjects are litigation and like property law, land law, all your basic laws. So there's actually no arbitration. Your arbitration knowledge is not tested in the QLTS. They have a short portion on alternate dispute resolution, but they don't really test you on arbitration.
Okay.
Okay, if I take the Indian bar after the MCT, do I get the Indian enrollment? Yes, I think, yeah, because I think it takes a couple of months, right, for you to get the enrollment certificate in India. So once you get your enrollment certificate and you get your good standing certificate, you can just apply to the SRA, and then you get your UK solicitor certificate.
One thing that you should be careful about right now is that there may be travel restrictions. So even if you clear the MCT sitting in India, right, in Delhi or wherever, there may be a challenge in traveling to UK for clearing the OSCE. So that you need to be a little careful about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think now with the COVID crisis, things have become a bit more of a problem, because I know a lot of people, they don't even have clarity on whether they can travel to the UK now, right? So there's an exam coming up in July, so nobody knows if they're going to be quarantined and all of that. Okay.
There's a question about if there is any institute in India which provides QLTS training. No, nobody does, right?
Yeah, right now nobody. But like I said, we're trying to introduce some sort of once our app is out, definitely it's going to have resources for preparing for QLTS, and they're going to be a lot more cost effective. How would you suggest to prepare for MCT to someone who has subscribed to QLT School training material? Yeah, QLT School I would say it's good for the MCT. If you subscribe to it, then you have, the books are good, their practice questions are good. And also I would say, I actually relied a lot on their videos. They have video lectures. So I watched the video lectures and I started doing the mocks. So I would definitely say focus on the mocks. You can definitely rely on QLT School for the MCT. What qualification is popular with in-house counsel roles with international qualification? New York Bar or London? That's a good question. It depends. on the law firms or the organizations that you're working for. Let's say organization,
No, he's
multinational
asking about
company.
MNC, huh? So it depends on the origin of the MNC a lot,
Yeah,
I guess. Whether it's
yeah.
an American.
Yeah, if the MNC is an American company, then they would of course love the New York bar or a US qualification. But if you're working for a British company, then yes, they will
Or
like.
Hong Kong company or Singapore company.
Yeah. Asian companies, I think they like to see the English law qualification. So all the common law countries, definitely, yes, they like to see the English law qualification. So I would also say on this note that, you should think ahead in terms of what qualification you want and which country you want to go in the future. So for example, in the future, let's say that you're thinking about immigrating to Canada, as a lot of people are thinking, then forget about the QLTS or the US bar. Think about Canada, so you can apply, you can actually write the Canada bar as an Indian lawyer as well. So focus on that. So think about what's your long-term plan. If you're thinking about the US in the long term, then focus on the California or the US bar. Don't waste your time on the QLTS if that's your goal.
Yeah, and California bar exam at least is just like QLTS. You can just apply. You can write the bar. If you're a registered lawyer in India for more than 4 years standing, you can actually write the California bar exam and qualify without having to do any LLM. Of course, you have to pass the exam, which is not easy. But again, it's like preparing for a bar exam essentially. Apart from
so for California bar as well, I also sort of just registered myself and they sent me a certificate saying that you're eligible to write the exam. But I didn't really ended up taking it. I mean,
same thing for New York bar exam, because if you're from a common law country, it is a little more difficult in New York. You have to apply and get a certificate from the New York Bar Association to write the exam. But even without an LLM, if you're studying your LLB in English and in a common law country in India, it is possible that they might allow you.
It is because I've heard that they don't allow you if you're just India law qualified, but they might be relaxing it.
No, I have gone through the rules because I have been working on creating courses around these bar exams and I have spoken to them. So it is basically, there's nothing that stops them, but they have a discretion. They can decide whether or not they'll allow you.
I see. Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting.
And they frequently allow people from UK to write the New York bar exam. They frequently allow people from Hong Kong to write the bar exam. It's up to them, but yeah, we generally qualify because you're from a common law country and you have done a 5-year law program. You qualify, especially if you have done a program where you have done 3 years and then 3 years, then definitely higher chances of getting an opportunity, because they sometimes don't understand the 5-year undergraduate law degree concept.
Okay, there's a question. Do you think if you're graduating in 2021, we should attend the MCT? Well, I would say, I would say keep a lookout on the updates on the SQE, because if you're graduating in 2021, it might make sense for you to actually look at the SQE and then decide whether you want to do the QLTS or not. Because right now, like I said,
in 2021, it doesn't make sense to prepare for, at all to prepare for QLTS because you don't know if it will be there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they will have a transition period, but we don't know how long that transition period is. I know there are a lot of questions above which I missed, so I'm going to slowly scroll up and see.
There are a few people who have raised their hands also. We'll take that as well. And there are questions that are on YouTube right now. So we'll take some of those also. Let me just quickly read out some questions from YouTube. Is OSC a descriptive exam? Madhusudhan Babu is asking.
No, it's a practical exam. So there are different sort of assessments. There's I can quickly give you an overview. There's a client interview. There's a civil or criminal advocacy. There's a client presentation. So these are like oral sort of exams where you have to talk and make a presentation. And then you have the written part, which is legal research, legal writing, and legal drafting. So those are very practical skills that they test you on. So it's not really a descriptive exam in the sense that you have to draft a letter or you have to draft a resolution. For research, you have to sort of prepare a memo in 1 hour, which is a bit difficult.
Right. Tarak Shah is asking if one has a training contract from a UK law firm, do they sponsor you for QLTS/SQE? They do actually.
Yeah,
if you have to get it, they sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the advantage of working for some law firms. If you're working for a smaller law firm, they might not sponsor your studies. Or if you're working, I know if you're working for a US firm, they're not going to sponsor your, UK exam. But if you're working for a UK law firm, then, and it's a big law firm, they're likely going to sponsor you.
Right.
Another question is, how much time do you need to prepare for the MCT? I would say maybe try preparing for it 4 months before maybe just 5 months before the exam, because try to understand what are the subjects covered, and then start reading the subjects and start practicing the questions, because the questions are actually quite complicated. So I studied in about 2.5 months, but I felt like it was very short. And in the 2.5 months, I was like, I had to kill myself a little bit, because in the weekends and stuff, I had to study all day, and I did panic a little bit.
Okay. There's a question about, somebody's asking about paralegal level jobs. Will it help if I just do MCT and not OSCE, and then I do LLM in UK? Can I get paralegal jobs in UK?
Well, I would say if you've done the MCT, then you might as well do the OSCE. Why would you not do the OSCE? I mean,
it's a theoretical question. That say I don't clear OSCE, then what happens?
Yeah, but there's nothing stopping you from getting paralegal jobs. If you have a law degree, then you can always get paralegal jobs. And to be honest, sometimes paralegals also, if you're a good paralegal, you can actually get paid quite well, and you don't have the headaches of being a lawyer. Okay. So it's not. I think being a paralegal is not a bad thing.
Sounds tempting. So there's another question on exemptions in QLTS. Can I get some exemptions in QLTS? Niyati's.
I mean, it depends on what degree you've done. Generally, like for instance, if you're an Indian lawyer, if you've done your Indian degree, I don't think there are any exemptions. But if you've done your LPC, then I think you can get an exemption from the MCT. And you can probably get an exemption if you've studied like maybe LLB in the UK. I think then there are some exemptions. But I don't really know too much about the exemptions because I didn't apply for them.
Yeah, this is anyway something you can just read up from the website, so that makes sense. I'll request you to ask questions which are like, little more like, so I'm not something you can Google or just read up from the website. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of questions here, which I think you'll actually find information on the QLTS website.
Yeah.
You can also just check out on QLTS Geek, where I've sort of tried to summarize the exams. So a lot of these questions you might just be able to find the answer on by Googling as well.
There's a question about whether if I have QLTS, would that give me a preference in a Belgian law firm? So Shivani is asking.
Really? A Belgian law. Well, I mean, it depends on what the Belgian law firm is looking for. But like I said, because it's an international qualification, it might just give you an edge because it's based, Belgium is in the UK. Yeah. I mean,
it's like if you have a lot of experience of doing UK work and the Belgian law firm is doing something with UK companies a lot, they might be interested, right? Or they have a lot of business in UK, they might be interested. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people asking about law students or asking about training contracts as well. So I would say versus QLTA. So I would say that if you're a law student in your final year and you're quite confident about it, I would say go for a training contract. That is the best way to crack into the UK market, because if you impress a law firm initially and you get a training contract, then
but the problem is that the number of training contracts received these days by Indian law firms, Indian law students in their 4th year, 5th year, mostly through vacation scheme, and even when they get it, it's like in single digit, doesn't even reach double digit. So the slots are very less. So there was a time even when we were graduating, there were like, every year at least 20-25 people are getting through to law firms in the UK. Right now there are only 3 law firms that are recruiting, and we have done a full webinar on that. Anybody who wants to watch how to get a training contract.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think times have changed. So if that option is not available to you, then just write the Indian bar exam, and then and then you can take the QLTS.
Yeah, one route is that you can do LLM in the UK in a good university like Oxford, Cambridge, and then you can start interning at various law firms in UK.
Yeah, I've seen a question here from somebody if the QLTS is on the Apple Store. Actually, right now the QLTS Geek is not really on the Apple Store because there were some issues with our Apple Developer Agreement. But in our new launch, it will definitely be there on Apple Store. Because we're redoing the app, and so we're just waiting for the new launch, and then definitely it's going to be there both on Google Play and Apple Store.
Got it. Excellent. All right then. So I don't see any really new questions. So Priyasha, I mean, there are a lot of questions, of course, but many of these are just questions you either
I'm also just
answered.
quickly, in fact, I'm just quickly sort of going through the chat.
How many hours are to prepare?
Is the QLTS relevant for other jurisdictions apart from the UK? Like I said, it'll be relevant for.
We have discussed this so much.
Dubai, Singapore, all these jurisdictions which are multicultural. Can Indians give the QLTS? Yes. Will LLM in the UK help? We discussed this. Well, I would say LLM is just a very academic degree. So if you have an academic bent of mind, then it's good. But if you're more interested in practicing law, then I would say LLM in the UK might not really be the best.
I have had friends who did their LLM from a good university and then managed to get their professors to recommend them to law firms and stuff like that. There are many professors in top universities who are actually also law firm partners at the same time. And there are such people who are arguing, in international commercial arbitration and a professor. So if they like you and they want to recommend you, that is definitely a great way to get a job.
Yeah. I think the good thing is that today we have a very interactive session in the sense that a lot of people have answered questions in the chat itself. So thank you for that. A lot of you have already answered the questions. So that's good.
Somebody's asking if a UK law firm will count Indian law firm work experience of 5 years, etc. Yes, they do. If it's relevant work experience, right? If you have been doing something, say you are doing international commercial arbitration and lots of Singapore arbitration, Hong Kong arbitration, Dubai arbitration, then they might actually look at that as something very relevant. Or you have been doing deals which involve a lot of British companies, etc. Let's say you worked on the Tata Jaguar acquisition deal, or something like that. Then of course they would be like, yes, you have relevant experience, so that would be counted. But not every kind of experience may not be counted, and it's very rare. Only when they'll see a big advantage on bringing you on board, like they think that yes, you are out of the world and they want to bring you on board for some reason. That's the situation, right, Priyasha?
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing another question. Will QLTS Geek provide for practice papers? Yes, we do have practice papers. We do have practice questions as well. It's not going to be as much as in the QLTS school initially because we're just sort of starting out. But in due course, yes, we will be building up the practice questions. So hopefully we can scale that quickly.
There are some hands up. Let's take those questions quickly.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Yeah, Shivani, you are unmuted.
Oh, hi, Ramanuj, and hi, Priyasha. Thank you for organizing this session. I was also quite active, so most of my questions were addressed there. But I have one last question to Priyasha. Sure. One is that, do you think it's wise, and I think you tangentially responded to that, do you think it's wise to take the immediate next round of MCT given time in the future? I just got muted. Okay, that sometime in the future, this will revert to SQE again. And so we might have to go through an extra process of transferring the current exam to then SQE. Should we wait? Should we not wait?
Okay, so right now, are you a qualified lawyer in India?
I am not. I will take the qualification in India. I'm an international trade lawyer and I'm practicing in Switzerland.
Okay. Well, the thing is that I would say if you can take the the MCT this July, then that would definitely be useful, because then you can take the OSCE, let's say
For the next
maybe
1 year.
beginning 2021. So then at least you know that, okay, fine, you can complete the assessment soon. Because if you wait for the SQE, we don't really know when that's going to be introduced now with the whole COVID crisis. So I would definitely say, and also there will be a transition period, from what I understand, at least.
No, Priyasha, SRA has clarified that, and even in today's chat, somebody came and said that she wrote to the SRA and they have clarified this, that if you clear the MCT now, you will get 1 year, you get 2 chances to clear the OSCE, for sure. Even if SQE is involved, is introduced, you will get 2 chances, no matter what. So that kind of gives you enough.
Oh yeah, that's a good clarification. 2 chances is good enough. I would say, because I'm sure you can clear it in your first or second.
Yeah, you might as well take it now rather than later.
Perfect. That's useful. Thanks, Siddharth.
Only problem is that traveling to take the OSCE may be a problem. Exactly. International borders are closed.
Yeah,
that would be a problem. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There is Gurbir. I've unmuted you. Gurbir, go ahead. Please ask the question.
Hi, Ramanuj. Thanks so much. It follows from what you mentioned right now. So if I clear my MCT in the July session, I would be getting 2 more chances. But is there a time period by 2021 or by 2020, do I have to finish my OSCEs as well? Or
you have
time? Yeah, could you tell me please?
1 year, 1 year. You get 2 chances after that. 1 year, 2 chances.
So 1 year, 2 chances.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, there's Kavya. Kavya, you're unmuted.
Yeah, hello Ramanuj. Hi ma'am. So my query is regarding the MOU signed by ICSI India and ICSI UK. Just like how we have advantage of holding a CS graduation in India, will that also have an advantage in UK? The qualified company secretaries in India, will they have an edge in UK also?
I actually don't really know too much about, the whole advantage of having a company secretary degree in India or having the UK qualification for company secretary in the UK. Ramanuj, do you have any clue on that?
I don't have any clue about the UK part, but we have done recently a survey of 110 in-house general counsels and group general counsels on what do they think about people having CS degree. Is it important or not? And we have prepared a report which will circulate it in all our WhatsApp groups, so you can take a look at that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Priyasha, can we? Is there something else you want to add? I think we have addressed most questions. Of course, there can be small questions that will keep coming up. Muhammad Shafiuddin is saying that he wants to speak. Where is he?
Do we have enough time to prepare for the MCT in July? Right now it's May. Right, I think right now, no, it's slightly short, but if also I think registration is going to be a little difficult to get spots. So I don't know whether you can, but if you're at home right now because of the COVID and you have all the time, then definitely you can do it in 2 months. But I don't know whether you'll actually get the registration spot this time, because, like I said, you have to register in advance.
Yeah, find out, right? So there's a question about, okay, Muhammad Shafiuddin, you want to ask a question? Please go ahead, quickly ask, you're unmuted.
Hello, good morning, ma'am. We are thankful you have a good description. I want to know that how many countries are recognized with this examination. At the same time, is there any exemption for higher qualification? For example, let us take in my case, I have done LLM and PhD and have the experience of nearly 15 years of practicing in Supreme Court and High Courts. So in this, do you have any exemptions of papers and other things? And I came to know that another thing is that the May 5th is the last date for the July examination. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been keeping track of the deadlines, to be honest, but like I said, yes, that will be there on the Kaplan website for the registration. Exemptions, generally, it's a little difficult to get exemptions unless you have some sort of a degree in the UK. So I would say, and also it's you know, I don't think an exemption is really going to help that much, because anyways you have to prepare for the exam, and for both B levels you need a certain knowledge of all these subjects. So I would say don't waste. It might just be prudent to not waste time applying for these exemptions, because you'll have to apply, you'll have to wait to hear back. You might as well just register for the exam, give it.
Get done with
then,
it. You have so much experience and knowledge, you'll be able to easily clear it. Why
yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, I don't remember your first question. You had asked.
No, this was
okay.
This was the question. That I have qualification, so can I get some exemption? Okay. Sure. Okay, I think we are 20 minutes past our deadline, so we are going to wrap this up now. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Priyasha, most of all, for taking out time and sharing your brilliant insights.
Thank you, Ramanuj, for organizing it, and thank you everyone for attending. I hope I was able to answer your questions.
Yeah, I understand that there will be further questions that people would be having. Sure, I understand. You can connect with Priyasha. You can connect with me also on LinkedIn and ask questions. Send across your question. We'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, okay? I'm a little lax when it comes to responding on LinkedIn, but I'm trying. I'm going to be trying to improve that my level of response.
Sure, it will improve. So, right. Okay, thank you, everybody. Do share on LinkedIn about how you found this. Tag Priyasha, tag me, share your experience on LinkedIn, and invite others to join our webinars. We'll have lots of webinars in the coming time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Have a great time.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Okay, take care, everybody. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, bye.